Welcome back to the Interior Design Playbook. We have reached Lesson 5 of Module 1, where the focus is going to be streamlining sections and elevations, two of the most important and time-consuming drawings in your set. In our last lesson, we created lighting and power plans and learned how to draw them faster, present them clearly as both client-friendly and construction-ready documentation. Today, we're shifting to sections and elevations. We will cover the fundamentals like choosing the right section cut and dive deeper into practical tips like line weights, material representation, annotations, and more. As always, I'll be showing you how to do all of this right within Rayon Design. With the wall tool, style presets, and a massive block library with the ready-to-use side views, we'll be able to work twice as fast on these sections and elevations compared to other CAD tools. By the end of this lesson, you will know how to create clear, consistent, and professional quality sections and elevations that convey your design intent. If you'd like to follow along with me, you can always create a free account and download the template linked below. And if you're looking for more personalized support, you can always book a one-on-one demo session with the Rayon team. If you're finding this series useful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment with any of your takeaways. I'd love to hear how you're using this workflow on your own projects. Let's get into it. So, what are the section and elevations purpose? Well, sections and elevations are 2D architectural drawings that reveal a building's vertical aspects, either by slicing through it like in our sections or showing it from the outside, so elevations. So think like head-on view of the outside. They are essential for communicating spatial relationships, materials, and structure, and they are actually required in almost every drawing set, whether you're working on renovations, new builds, or anything else. Now, since we are doing a heavy focus on the interior, we won't be too focused on elevations, but I will show you how you can create an elevation from a section that you've already drawn. But our main focus here is going to be in the sections. So in this tutorial, I will start by drawing a section from scratch using our floor plan. So using this floor plan that we've already created. Just a side note though, for those of you using Rayon as part of a 2D to 3D workflow, you can actually import DWG PDF or images of your rough sections onto the Rayon canvas to complete them and make them presentation ready. So now that we've got that past us, let's talk about how to create a section, and we will start by organizing our file because that is just the best way to work in Rayon. I'm working in our drawing template right here, so I already have a section and elevation canvas set up. If you are starting in a blank Rayon file, you can just hit the plus button here and create a new model canvas, and then that's where you can name it your section and elevation canvas. So since I have this section and elevation canvas set up right here, I'm just gonna go right in there. And before we do anything, we're gonna start by setting up a layer called section. So you'll just go to the plus button, hit layer, and then call that sections. And then inside of it, we are going to add a nested guidelines layer. So what this is going to do is this will allow us to create some guidelines for some of our like different heights of things, like for instance, the floor, the ceiling, the windowsill. And by putting these on their own layer, it will just make it easy for us to like lock it or hide it layers later. So we'll go plus layer and we'll just call that guidelines. And then we will just drag that guidelines under our sections. And then you can see here, we've got that right here. We've got guidelines under sections. And now before we start drawing anything, we do need to bring our floor plan in to guide us. That's usually the easiest way to start drawing in section and elevation is we need to figure out like where on this floor plan are we looking. So we will bring right into here, right into this model canvas that we're working in. We'll hit the plus button and we'll go to view and we'll just bring in our floor plan view. Now, this is not an editable floor plan or anything. You can see it brought in like pretty much all my layers. All it is basically just a reference point for me to start drawing. So before we do anything, we need to make sure that it is to a 1-to-1 scale. So basically for us in the US, 12 inches equals 1 foot. If you're using meters, it would just be a 1-to-1 scale. So I'm going to hold down my command key and just kind of scrunch this in a little bit. And what we want to do is determine where our section is going to cut first. So again, since we are like heavily focused on interiors in this course, I'm thinking that we could either do a long slice along here, or just to keep things a little bit more simple and streamlined, we could just do a little slice through this more narrow area, and then you can tackle one of these longer spaces on your own. So I'm thinking that we will probably slice right through here, maybe right behind this table, and then look towards this little kitchenette. So if we want to, we could just start by adding in a little section cut, like annotation basically for ourselves. Eventually we might want to create a section cut like on our actual floor plan. But for right now, to kind of initially indicate where our section cut is going to take place, I'm just going to draw like a little guideline basically, so we can understand where exactly we'll be cutting this. So for instance, I'm thinking right about here, and then I'm also thinking maybe we are looking this way. So if you wanted to, you could always go over to the block library where Rayon has over 10,000 blocks and download some sort of section cut type of thing. Now, this floor plan in here is really just for our reference only right now. So this, I mean, I don't necessarily need to be getting this in here right now, but if we wanted to, we could just kind of like add in this little section to kind of just remind us where we are cutting. I'm basically just placing it and mirroring it. So using my little mirror tool over here. And now this is just gonna remind us where exactly we're cutting. First things first, I'm going to actually, this is just kind of like my reference guide over here, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna copy and paste this, and now I'm going to actually rotate the entire floor plan and use my command key to kind of like chop where we're looking. Now, in our actual drawing set, if we go back to our presentation canvas, you can see in these sections here, you see the cut of the section. This is pretty much where we're cutting through, but then you also see the house behind and the house beyond. Most of the time, you're not gonna necessarily need to model in that exterior of the house for an interior plan. But like I said, I will show you kind of how to develop those. But for this lesson, we're just going to focus on this little chunk right here, because that's usually what we're going to be dealing with as interior designers. So going back to our section and elevation canvas here, again, I'm just kind of like chopping this area to what we're going to be seeing. So this is kind of where I'm going to be standing, looking toward this kitchenette. So again, just kind of chop this in here. And now that's just like a little bit more manageable for me to understand. When you are choosing your section cut, you just want to make sure that you choose something that is going to convey multiple rooms, cut through multiple doors, multiple windows. And this is really going to help explain the relationship between different spaces. Now, for instance, this one that we're focusing on, again, this is kind of more of like a more of like a intimate space just for teaching purposes, just to not like overwhelm you. But you should be able to take what I'm teaching here and apply that to any other section cuts that you do. So this section cut is a little bit more simple just for the demonstration. Again, if you wanted to go grab a section symbol or something like that from the block library, you are welcome to. But we're not, again, we're just using this floor plan as our reference for right now. The section cut wouldn't necessarily need to be shown on this model canvas, but maybe on our floor plan canvas when we are presenting it later. But let's go ahead and start by creating a grid. So again, I just kind of like duplicated the floor plan, rotated it, cropped it, and then using some guidelines, it's going to anchor our different elements. Like I said, like floors, ceiling heights, furniture, structure, and we can also color code them to help the grid be more like readable as we place our walls and our furniture and that kind of thing. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So all I'm doing is grabbing my line tool right here, and I'm just going to start kind of snapping to different items. So I'm going to start by drawing a grid line over here. And again, with the color coding, let's go ahead and make a new style. I'm going to come over here, and that looks good. Let's go ahead and make this one a red line, and this will be kind of like walls that we cut through. So we've got that. We've got, again, we will snap this one to this wall. And then we're going to be cutting through these walls as well. So I'm going to draw these guidelines over here. Just place them in the right spot. We should be making sure that we're drawing on our guidelines, which we are, which is good. I'm going to just kind of snap that up there. And so these red lines are now the start of our section, just kind of like showing which walls we're cutting through. Next, I might want to add like a ground plane line. You are welcome to make this one a different color. We'll just leave it at black, because basically what we're going to end up doing is tracing over these guidelines with actual like walls and fills. So again, these are literally just kind of like starting our grid. So next up, I'm going to create another line, and I'll go over here, and maybe this one will be green. And this will just be walls that we see beyond. So I'm going to just hold down my shift key to make sure that these stay straight, and grab another line. Looks like we can see this wall beyond. And we'll copy this whole thing because the same situation happens over here. So we'll kind of like link that up to this wall. And now you can start to see that we've got these walls, we've got our ground plane, and then let's just see like what else we can see in elevation that we might want to block out. Like if there's any doors beyond, for instance, it looks like there's an opening beyond here. So maybe we want to make a different style for our opening. So maybe openings are going to be blue. So I'm going to draw my line from here to here, and we're just basically setting ourselves up for success later on when we want to start placing blocks. You're going to have all of your grid lines nice and set up so you can see, where to place those. You can also do the same thing for any furniture. I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, I think. So looks like we kind of have like a pretty decent setup here. Now, next up, you would probably want to draw the height of your ceiling. So I have a few dimensions here. So we've got our kitchenette height is at 7'6". So I'll basically go 7'6" and then dock my line there. Then draw another grid line this way. My next elevation height that I need to put on here is basically the bottom of the pitched roof, so like the eave height. And then I've also got the top of the pitched roof as well, so we'll add those in. So let's again click a line, and we're gonna go from our ground level, and we'll say 11'6", and then snap that there. And these can be like somewhat messy because again, they're basically just our guides. And then our last height is 17'3". So 17'3", and we'll plop that there. Draw our last grid line here. So now what we can do is just kind of like start tracing the exterior, so we have then we can kind of work inwards. I'm going to start by just grabbing a polyline because I want to be able to select multiple times. Again, this is just a guideline, so I'm going to make this pretty thick just so I can see it. You can always save that style if you'd like. And I'm just going to start tracing this. So this is my exterior wall, basically. This is my eave height. I know that I'm going to have to snap. I'm going to have to find my middle here, which I have not done yet, but we can always move that basically there. And then we're going to snap to the exterior again, exterior, and there we go. So now let's just go in here really quick and figure out what our center line is. I'm going to grab a line, and we should be able to find the center line from one of these walls. So right there. Okay, so obviously I was off a little bit, but no problem. We can just double click into that polyline and just move that vertice right over there so it's nice and centered. Now, you can keep that line if you want. I'm just going to delete it. So that's basically the outline of this section, right? So now what we need to do is use our wall tool to indicate the actual cut throughs of the wall. So one of the reasons that drawing a section with Rayon is so much faster is that it's incredibly responsive. You just draw it and then it automatically applies a wall thickness and fill, which you can edit later from the style planner. So we'll go down here and grab our wall tool. I'm gonna actually also just start drawing in my section layer instead of my guidelines now, because the guidelines I want to be able to turn on and off like so. Under our sections, we're just gonna grab our wall tool and basically start drawing a wall here. And now that, since we have our guidelines, we can just kind of snap to those guidelines, which is really helpful. So we can see that this wall is the wrong size. We need it to be a little bit thicker. We need it to be, let's do a measurement here real quick. it should be, let's see here, 11.5 inches. So over here, we'll give it an 11.5 inch thickness, so 11.5 inches. And then if you want to change the fill, the color, the stroke, anything like that, you can do that. And once you have the size that you want it to be, you can just hit plus and then say like exterior wall, and then that will save that into your style library. So again, we want to draw that same thing over here. Going to click there and there. And now we have our 2 exterior walls. Also, it's pretty standard to create or to make a wall cut through like black, or to even show like some sort of insulation, which you can also easily do that by just creating a line right here. And then within the stroke over here, under add dash, they do have like a little batting right there. So you can do that and then change the size, of course, maybe a little bit bigger than that, like that, if you wanted to show more detail of the wall. Again, we'll just keep it simple for now and turn that off. So then you can grab your wall tool again to kind of like create your roof line. And if you want to, you can select these walls and make them like a little bit less thick, maybe closer to 6 inches or something like that. And again, if you want to save that wall type and maybe that's like your roof wall or something like that, then you can do that. But you can see how easy that is to adjust sizes of everything in here. We will also draw ourselves a nice little floor right here, and I'm just going to keep it as that current wall type, the exterior wall type that I have, and now it's looking like an actual house. So then you would just basically continue by tracing. So again, grab your wall tool and trace this interior line. Now this wall is much less thick. Let's do a little dimension here to see how thick. So 4.5 inches. So maybe this wall, maybe we want this wall to be like a white color, and it obviously needs to be closer to 4.5 inches, and just kind of like drag that up to kind of mesh into the ceiling and the floor, and then rinse and repeat. So we'll make sure that we'll go back here and we'll save this style as interior wall. And then we can grab our wall tool again and just do that same thing. Just make sure that we have our interior wall. I'm going to pick our style here and draw that right there. So this is just the process that you would continue. And then again, the nice thing is that, yes, a lot of this is like more work on the front end, but once you set up like typical interior walls and exterior walls, like you can reuse this on all of your projects. So it is a little bit of like setup work, but your future self will thank you. Now to start adding some furnishings in here, like for instance, I want to add like a door over here, and like we need to get our kitchen in here. We are obviously going to head over to our block library, which again, Rayon has over 10,000 blocks. Many of them have front, top, and side views, which means that I don't have to be searching for any like sort of matching symbols or convert anything manually like I would have to do if I was using AutoCAD. I'll just add in a couple different things here. I'm going to add in a door. I'll show you how you can add in like a side view of cabinetry, and then we'll also throw in a person. So moseying over here to our block library, I'm going to just scroll down here and look for openings. So openings right here. And you'll see that these are all of these like say family. If you click on the family, let's find a door that we like and click on the family. Click on family, and what that's going to show you is the 3 different views that it has for this particular door. So we have a floor plan, we've got our elevation, and then we've got our side section. I, for instance, want to grab this door. Even though it says it's an EU door, that's fine. So we're gonna drag and drop this over here, and because we have this project to scale, it's going to drop into scale. We have it as like a 1-to-1 scale. 1 foot equals 12 inches, or 1 foot equals 1 foot. And if we need to, we can just like adjust the size like that, scale it up. Or you can also just search for any other doors if you need to. If you need to like mirror this, maybe it opens on the other side, you can easily do that. Now let's go take a look and see if we have any like good cabinetry in here. So under kitchen basics, let's go click in there and we'll see that we've got all different kinds of items in here. So I'm going to just type in the search button. I'm going to just type in casework or millwork or joinery or whatever it is, wherever you live. And then I'm going to click on the family, and I'm just going to drag in this elevation of this casework. So it's as easy as that. I'm just gonna, drop it. If you need to make multiple of them, you just kind of copy and paste. If you need to add in a fridge or something like that, you're gonna be able to find that in the block library. Now, before I kind of work on detailing this a little bit more, let me show you how to add in a person, which is a really good way to show some scale here. So if we just scroll down to people, I'm gonna go over here. And again, these all have 3 different views. So we can, find the same person maybe we had in our floor plan, but we're just gonna see them in elevation or section now. I'm just gonna type in standing, see what we get here. So person standing, let's go see what views we have. We've got a front on, side, and then top view. So awesome. I'm gonna just drag in the side view and you'll be able to see how much scale this gives. So now we've got our person standing on the side, and this section is off to a great start. Now, if there are any other blocks that you have from CAD, or if you want to create your own, you can totally import those. You can also just curate your own blocks into a personal or team library. You can also go ahead and edit some of these. So if you click on the block and go down to edit, for instance, if you didn't want these legs to show in section, you can just delete those, and you can see any other instance that I've copied it, it's going to delete those as well. So heading back over to our layers, now let me just show you when I turn off my guidelines here, now it looks like an actual section, right? And as I mentioned before, if you are detailing, what's actually beyond this section cut, so maybe you're detailing some of the rest of the house over here, you would just basically rinse and repeat that entire process that we just did. Just use your lines as your guidelines, and then start creating basically a polyline is what you're going to do. You're going to create a polyline, and then you'll just give that polyline a fill to indicate whatever kind of material you have. So for instance, I just created that polyline, and then if I want to go to fill, if I want to indicate that this is, let's see here, maybe this is brick. So we'll have this, stack right here. So that's how you're gonna kind of give more of a fill to the exterior part of the elevation. So after some more development, this is what our elevation, or our interior elevation, or our section starts to look like. So we've got some of our blocks in here. We've got our walls, we've got our roof, a little bit more just detail everywhere. Now let me just show you how we could add some dimensions and some tags in order to give a little bit more information here. So all you need to do is just grab your dimension tool down here and just click point A and point B of what you want to dimension. So I'm going to click this, and this might be a good time also to maybe create another layer that you would put all of your dimensions on, and that would be under your section layer. So it would be again, another nested layer in there. So we've got our first dimension here. If we want to make that a different color to make it stand out, all we do is come over here and change the color, change anything over here that we want. I'm going to put a red stroke. Maybe you want the ends to look a little bit different. Maybe they should have arrows on them. So we can do that. And then once you find the style that you like, you just hit plus and you just say red dimension. And now we have that style. So then when we want to add any other dimensions, for instance, if we want this height that we have here, you can either just use your picker tool or just select the dimension and say replace all, and then select our red dim that we just created. So you can just continue to populate like that. We can also add in a nice little leader line. For instance, maybe if we want to call out something like this tile, you'll just click where you want to annotate. Maybe we'll just say backsplash ashlar installation or something like that. And then of course we can always edit the style of this as well. So if you already have one in your file, great. Or you can change the color. the stroke color, the stroke thickness. You can also change, like, if you want it to be an arrow or like a dot like that. Change the font size, everything. And then once you get that, you would just say like red annotation, or if you already have one that you've saved from another one of your canvases or something, then you just grab that one. So that's kind of how you can start to populate this section with more annotations. Now, before I show you an easy little trick to convert this section into an elevation, just a recap real quick on these fills. So similar to how I was just showing you how you could kind of fill in your exterior materials, you can do the same thing with these interior materials. So if I'm like double clicking here a couple of times, if I want to, I'll just delete that fill real quick. If I wanted to create a fill with a tile, all I have to do is just go grab my polyline and then snap and basically outline wherever I want it to be, right? And then once you have that, just hit escape, and now you can fill this with whatever you want. So I'm going to add my fill. This is going to be a tile. So let's go see if we can find like a good tile. And of course you can add in something realistic or something just more like a pattern. Let's just select that one. We can, let's see here, we could make it half the size. So let's just say 0.5. And I want to get rid of our stroke. So I'm going to say remove stroke. And now we've got this very easily editable fill that we can always go back and change. Like for instance, if we change the tile and we want to represent it differently, all you have to do is go in, select this fill, and then change the texture. It's the same kind of thing with that whole like exterior material thing. The same kind of thing works for the interior as well. So now as we wrap this lesson up, this is obviously the more detailed version of this section. So, we can see our little interior section that we just created, but then also we have a representation of all of this exterior, which, like I mentioned, is not necessarily going to be in the scope for an interior designer. It just kind of depends on what you work on. If you were to model or, model line all of this, it would be just the same kind of process that we just went through. But if you did want to convert this to an elevation really easily, all you really have to do is either delete the interior of this space and then replace it with a fill, or my kind of like easy way to do it is to just create a fill and put that on its own layer that you can turn on and off. For instance, if you wanted to be able to transform this into an elevation really quickly, all you have to do is, let's see here, we'll create a new layer. I'm going to call it elevation, and then we'll grab our polyline, and I'm just going to basically trace this part of my building that we were just like showing all of our interior stuff. And I'm just going to create a fill that's going to essentially cover it up. So we've got this fill here, we've got this polyline, and all I have to do is add in a fill. I can even just use my little eyedropper and grab that fill right there. And now this has basically been converted into an elevation. Now, if I wanted to turn that off, all I would have to do is come over here and turn that off. And now we've turned it into a section. So that just saves you a little bit of work. Now you can, of course, always copy and paste these sections that you've created and then create a whole new elevation from that, like we kind of have over here. Like this is basically a copy paste version. So the elevation just lies on its own little piece of this canvas, but it's really just up to you and how like big the scope of your project is, the size of your project, all that kind of stuff. So that's really just up to you to determine. But this is the easiest way to create these elevations and sections. Now, to kind of wrap things up, let me just show you, as always, how to add these to your own paper sheet within our paper canvas. So I'm gonna just drop in a whole new page and just kind of show you how to do it from scratch. So over here under layers, we'll go to plus page, and it's gonna drop a new page on here, and we are using an A3 page. So we'll just keep that as is. And then same thing that we've done for all of these other drawings, we are just going to add in a view. So we'll hit the plus sign right here, and then we'll go to view, and we're gonna say section and elevation. And what that does is that brings in our entire set right here. If you hold down your command, we can just kind of focus in on whichever views we want. So for instance, if we want to make our section sheet, we've got these right here. And then over here, you can just change your scale. So I believe we were using 11/128ths before. So or 128 inches. So I need to move this out a little bit more. And that's kind of what these look like. Now, of course, you might have your title block over here, but eventually what it's going to look like is this sheet that we have here. And you can see that we do have like some of our guidelines and some of our dimensions turned on for these views. I really love in here how, you know, we've got like a little bit of like blue indicating the pool. You could also do kind of like a blue transparent type of color for windows. You can just get like really creative with it. And it depends on what kind of style you want to go for. If you want to do something a little bit more realistic, then you maybe want to make your fills those more realistic materials instead of just like the pattern fills. Now, if you want to also get a little bit more realistic, you can also add in shadow lines like this, which again is just created by adding those fills. So really just up to you as a designer how detailed and intricate you want these drawings to look. It's really amazing what you can create all right within this one design platform. And that wraps things up for lesson 5. Today we covered the essentials of creating drawing sections and elevations more efficiently, all the way from choosing the right section cut to applying line weights, material representation, and annotations to keep your drawings clear and professional. You also got a chance to see how Rayon's wall tool, style presets, and side view block library can speed up your workflow dramatically. By now, you should feel confident creating clean, consistent elevations and sections that are both presentation ready and build ready without wasting hours redrawing and reformatting. Don't forget, you can download that editable drawing set template linked below and adapt it to your own project. If you'd like extra guidance, you can also book that one-on-one demo call using the link below. And as always, if you're enjoying this series, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment with your takeaways. We want to hear how you're using this workflow to streamline your own projects. Up next, we're going to be focusing on millwork shop drawings, so stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next lesson.